Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vance. In today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how I made the corset part of this gown. This is actually an inbuilt corset gown that I made for my client. So I'll be putting you through on how I was able to make the corset blouse that fitted her and how many inches I was able to stitch. So this is the George fabric that I'll be using for this project, and then I'll be using the white satin fabric, doll face to be precise, to make the corset part. So I've gone ahead to draft out the basic body so that the project will not be too long. So I've gone ahead to mark out my starting line, my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and the full length of this blouse. So I divided my shoulder by 2. I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Then I divided my bust by 6 plus 1.5 to get my armhole line. Then I connected this straight down. I came in by ½ inch. I divided my bust by 4 to be able to get that point that you see me marking there. And then I connected the 3 points just like that together. So when I was done with that, the next thing I went on to do was to take my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder width. For the shoulder width, I used 4 inches, and then for my shoulder depth, I used 4 inches. So basically, I used 4 by 4. After I was done marking it down, I connected it together just like this, and I went ahead to take my shoulder slope. When I was done marking it, I went ahead to take my nipple to nipple. My client's nipple to nipple is 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. I marked it there on the bust point. I marked it on the my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and also the full length of this blouse. So when I was done, I went ahead to use my ruler to connect those points together. So when I was done connecting it together, the next thing I did was to take my waist measurement so that I can be able to, it will help me to determine how many inches I'm going to use for my dart. So this was me when I divided my waist by 4. I marked it there, and I divided my hip by 4 at the full length. I marked my hip measurement divided by 4. When I was done with that, I connected my lines from my chest line to my waistline down to the full length of my blouse, just the way you see me doing. So when I was done connecting it, the next thing I did was to connect from my chest line down to the full length of my blouse using my ruler. So this was me connecting it straight down to my chest line. So whatever I got between my original waist to the new acquired waist, I divided it into 2 to get my bust dart. I marked it on my under bust to get my bust dart. I got about 2.2. So I divided the 2.2 by 2 to get my darts that I marked on the under bust. So this was me connecting the dart straight to the full length of my blouse. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but I want you to watch and then you understand. So when I was done with this, the next thing I did was to come up by 1 inch from my chest line to get my new chest line. So this is where my yoke is going to start. So this was me rolling out my point, and then I extended my nipple to nipple down to the new chest line. When I was done with this, from my bust point, I came in by ½ inch to get my cup. So it's from that ½ inch I'm going to connect my cup down to my under bust. So this was when I marked it down. So I'm going to use my ruler to just give it a short line, just the way you see me doing. So when I was done with this, the next thing I did was to take my over bust tightening. So for my over bust tightening, this part I used 1 inch. For my center front, I used ½ inch. So when I was done, I went ahead to connect the point straight to my bust point. So this was me connecting the lines straight to my bust point. So when I was done with this, I went ahead to use my ruler to connect from my under bust straight to my bust point to give me my bust curve. So this was me connecting it from my bust point to my under bust to give me that breast cup shape. I did the same thing for this other side, just like this. So when I was done with this, to get my corset cup, I went ahead and then connected my lines from my under bust to that 1/2 inch I came in by. And I did the same thing for the other part. But before I did that, from my armhole line, that's from my CL, what I did was I checked the distance between my armhole line, just the way you're seeing me do. I divided it into 2. So that's from my distance, the distance between my armhole line to my chest line, there, divided into 2. Then I came down by 1/2 inch. This is the way I actually cut my corsets, and it's been going well. So I will go ahead and draw our new armhole line, like the new chest line. I don't know how to explain that. So I'll go ahead now. From that 1/2 inch I came down by, I'll connect it down to my under bust. Then I will use my ruler. When I was done with that, I'll use my ruler at our new chest line and give it a curve, just the way you see me doing. From that point, I'll connect it to my French curve to give it that cup curve. I'll do the same thing for the other part. So I wanted my net, that's my yoke, to come down to the bust point. So this was me connecting from my new chest line down to that 1/2 inch I came down by. Then I'll rule my line straight down to the bust point. So that is where my yoke is going to be. You can see I've gone ahead to mark my front yoke. So I'm using my marker pen to trace out my curves so that it will be more visible. So I'm tracing out the lines. So that initial line that we got, I'll go ahead and erase it. That's the initial waistline. So before then, I'm marking my arrows indicating my cups, my CF. So for this side front, I'll erase that waist part, and then I'll mark my bust, that, and then my other measurement. I didn't know that my camera stopped recording. So this is the back. So what I did for that front was I just took my normal measurement, took my bust, that, and then I connected it. That was all that I did. So for my back measurement, I've gone ahead to do my basic body. For my neck width, I used 4. For my neck depth, I used 2 inches. So this was when I was connecting it down. Then I'm going to also connect my shoulder slope line, just the way you see me doing. So when I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is I want if you look at the thumbnail or the video before we started the drafting, you will see that the net has the yoke rather has a kind of, is a stylish yoke at the back. So this was me trying to draft out that double buttons for my back yoke. So I was connecting it. I came down from my neck depth by 1.5. From that 1.5, I came down by 1 inch. That gave me that square shape. From that square shape, I also came down by 1.5. So what I did next was to connect my yoke like this, and I'll go ahead and give it a curve so that it won't be sharp by that edge. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I hope I'm not confusing you guys. So the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my CL, my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and the full length of our blouse. For the full length of the blouse, remember that the front block and the back block is not the same. So for the front block, I used 17 inches for my half length, while for the back block, I used 15 inches. That's 2 inches for a bust dart that I told you that I added a bust dart by the front block. So this was me when I'm marking out I marked out my nipple to nipple, so I'm connecting it. After marking out my nipple to nipple, the next thing I'm going to do is to take my darts. So the darts I'll be using will be 1/2 inch by both sides. So I'll go ahead and mark my 1/2 inch on both sides. I'll connect it down to the chest line. So I use my ruler to connect from the 1/2 inch down to my chest line, just as shown. When I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and minus 2 inches from my center back. This 2 inches is where that space at the back where my rope is going to be, my loop. So this was me marking out 2 inches from my center back. Since we are not using zip for this project, I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect it straight down, and when I'm done connecting it, I will now go ahead and mark out where the eyelet is going to sit. So this place I'm circling is where the eyelet is going to sit, while the 2 inches we are going to be cutting it out. So this mark that I'm making now is where we are going to cut the 2 inches out, after which from my chest line I'm going to come down by 1 inch or 1.5. So I'll use my bust point. I'll come down by 1.5. I'll use my bust point as my line because I do not want my back width to be straight. I wanted it to be a bit slopey, so this was me connecting my lines, looking for the perfect line that I will use to connect it straight to my bust point line, just like this. I wanted that slopey part for my back. So this was when I was done connecting it. The next thing I was going to do is to take my shape. I'll take my under bust measurement. I'll divide it by 4. I'll take my waist measurement, I'll divide it by 4. I'll take my hip measurement, I'll divide it by 4. And then I'll connect the points together. At this point, guys, please, I want you to subscribe to my channel, like, share, leave a comment in the comment section. Be there to respond to you all. So this was me connecting my points. So after I'm done connecting the points, next thing I'm going to do, I will integrate my lines with 1, 2, and with an arrow. Remember, if you don't indicate, you might make mistakes. So I made a mark there with an arrow, my center back and my side back. Corsets can be confusing if you do not label. So this was me writing out my back yoke. So when I'm done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut it out. So I'm going to close my darts, my back dart, and use masking tape to cover it. So this was me cutting out my yoke. So our back block is ready. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut my yoke for the neck. You can see for the neck, the stretchy parts will be the width, the non-stretchy parts will be the length. As you can see, it's silky. It's advisable that you use a mesh that is silky, that is stretchy at one point. Don't use a net that is stretchy at both points. So this was when I was placing my yoke to the net. Then I'll cut out when I'm done placing it. Guys, please subscribe to my channel, That's the only support you can do for me. Like my video so it can be able to reach more people. And then I will see you in my next tutorial. Thank you for staying tuned to my channel. So for this yoke, I came down, I marked 1/2 inch at the down part of my front yoke. So after that's the only part I added an allowance. So that 1/2 inch is my allowance to join to my corset blouse. So when I'm done cutting the front yoke, I'll also fold my skin mesh, that's my net, to cut out my back yoke. So this was me folding it, and then I'll place my back yoke on the net. I'll pin it down so that it won't have to move, to make it stable. Then I'll go ahead and mark 1/2 inch at the down part of my pattern, just the way you see me doing. And even at this other part, I went ahead to mark an allowance. I used 1/2 inch too, so I went ahead to cut it. Thank you guys for watching my video. I'll see you in the sewing tutorial of this corset. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.